there, guys, girls, gamers, to the 8th rendition of the pretty, the bearded, and the bald in the full Christmas mode, actually.
Yes.
If you see TeeggieBeeggie.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, we have Santa Claus and someone who is really, really into Christmas.
I'll be Mrs. Claus.
Mrs. Claus, and I might decorate my stand-in since you guys haven't still brought me to 100 subscribers.
Christmas kitties.
Oh, dear. Yeah, give GP a Christmas present.
All I
Subscribe.
want-
Subscription.
No, give us all a Christmas present.
Yeah, that's actually good. But, I could sing for you. All I want for Christmas is you.
Oh.
To subscribe to my channel.
You can do it.
Especially after YouTube's shenanigans earlier this week, where they just stripped out a ton of subscribers.
Well, I lost
I think they
one.
gave them to me. Like, they stole them off everyone else and gave them.
Is that right? Oh,
Yeah, I did quite well out of that whole situation.
Very good.
Tiggy is going to pass us too, and soon we have to,
Yeah.
do what she
Exactly.
wants.
I'll be the boss.
That's how it works.
Okay, so this will be the last episode of PPB for this year, because we all get into the Christmas mode and get presents on the weekends, and we'll be
Yeah, that's
generally really, really stressed. So
I'll just be too drunk for 2 weeks, so I can do it.
How is that different from the rest of the year, too?
works.
Oh.
Shots fired.
Disclaimer, I am not an alcoholic.
Isn't that what every alcoholic says?
Actually, I do need to just Irish up this coffee.
Okay. Well, since we had also a hiatus before this week, the topics aren't that fresh anymore. But we'll still talk about it. Like Assassin's Creed Unity has been released, much to the chagrin of most of its players, because the game was really, really buggy.
Yeah.
And, well, buggy games on release isn't a new thing, but with the coming of early access titles, you should think that A++ titles should be polished a bit. So, what's your take on that, FG?
Well, I think part of the issue with Assassin's Creed really is its port for a start, and it's fairly rushed as a port. I mean, as all ports are, because there's this kind of this quite tight production cycle to get the game to console, and then there's a very limited amount of time for most games before they can kind of get them onto PC. And I think the problem with that, it's kind of a little bit backwards in the sense that really PC titles are always going to need more playtesting to determine all the bugs because of the different configurations that PCs can have and the systems and graphics cards and so on and so forth, whereas you've got this kind of very uniform and predictable hardware set up for console. So should really theoretically be easier to port from PC to console than the other way around. And I think that is part of the reason why Assassin's Creed Unity has so many bugs in it, is because of this porting issue. That said, there are definitely games that do that a lot better than other games. And I mean, whilst GTA 5 was certainly not perfect, it probably had a bit longer as well before it had to be ported across. But that was much more polished as a first, when it was first released, and then they were quickly updated with patches and so on. And now, obviously, it's quite solid. So I think that is the main problem at the core of these bugs in Assassin's Creed Unity. As for why other games that maybe aren't originally console games that are ported across would have so many bugs in them, I think it really just comes down to the production cycle and the need to get games out within a certain period of time and to have limited resources spent on developing the game so that you can maximize your profit at the end, or even make a profit at the end of the production cycle as well. And this constant demand in a very competitive industry is what leads to bugs being shipped with games, really, I think, is the issue. The demand for the games and the demand to make money, obviously, from investors is creating a condition where these bugs occur.
But Assassin's Creed Unity wasn't like shipped on Christmas, so they didn't really have pressure to ship on Christmas Day, didn't they, Teeggie?
AAA titles can get away with it though, because people will still buy it.
Yeah.
You know, they'll buy it because it's Assassin's Creed. So the ideal world, obviously, would be to not have any buggy game. But if you can put your game out, still make a ton of money on it, and work on the bugs whilst you're making money on it instead of waiting, then I can understand why any business would do it. I think. Ideally, I don't think it should happen. You know, like GP said, we've got early access. You know, this is the time to do the bugs, but AAA titles aren't going to release their games under early access because they don't need to, because we'll still buy it when it comes out, even if it is still, you know, not quite 100% perfect. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I can see why it happens. I certainly can from a sort of business point of view.
Yeah.
Of course, as we've mentioned in the past as well, early access is not really just about identifying and ironing out bugs in the while the game's being developed. It's about raising money so that you can continue with development. So, I mean, those two things don't necessarily go hand in hand.
But, you know, you harm the reputation of your game series. If you release buggy game after buggy game, you will kill it. And
I don't think, I'm not 100% sure on that though, GP. Stuff like Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, you know, these really, really top name games. Sorry if you heard that, was my phone going off. No, I think we'll hate, like, people will probably say it on the internet, I'll never buy an Assassin's Creed game again, it's awful, all of this. But guarantee in a year's time, when the new one comes out, going to buy it. Of course they will, because everyone else will be buying it, and then you'll want to see what's on about it, and then you'll find out it's got more bugs in it as well, and you'll say the same thing again. We all do the same every time we have a drink on Friday night. I wake up in the morning, never again. Of course you do it again, because it's fun.
So it's, in the end, it's the consumer's fault that they just fall back and don't...
I don't think it's like their fault. Like, I don't think anyone's intentionally doing this, but it's just that it's human nature. To sort of, especially when these things are like, they're heavily advertised and really hyped up on Twitter, on the internet, and everyone's talking. We've got people like us talking about these things. Then it's natural to kind of have that kind of, I want, and then you buy and you're let down, but then you buy again. We're always hopeful that next time it'll be better.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we buy the idea of the game, especially with AAA titles where we haven't really been exposed to the gameplay in any meaningful way before release. We're buying into, the hope or the idea that it's going to be everything that we dream it will be. And obviously, any AAA title, very few AAA titles which really ever live up to the expectations that the consumer has of them. And I think, at the one extreme, that is, they're a buggy mess, but even polished games never really deliver everything they promise. Or very few, I should say. Not some do go beyond what you expect of them. But, part of marketing is to make something incredibly desirable and to build up people's hopes and dreams for a product, which is very hard to live up to.
True. Well, my take on this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but Assassin's Creed Unity was a new generation console game, so Xbox One and then PlayStation 4.
Yep, I believe it.
And there shouldn't be that many issues porting that stuff over. I know the new consoles are just PCs, and I know you have a variable configurations, graphic cards, CPUs on the PC. But if you look at the market share of the graphics cards and CPUs, you see that in the end you have a very, very uniform. You can 60% of computers should run fine. I mean, there are always going to be issues. As a programmer, I can say, even if the hardware is the same, that doesn't mean anything. But if you strive for this 60% and make it run there, complaints will be less. And as I saw on their internal forums, the game had a bug fix list of 200 items and 140 gameplay bugs that were fixed in the first patch.
It's pretty epic.
That's, you know.
And they're not secret hidden ones, are they, that you'll have to struggle to find? They're like just obvious in the game.
Like just the face missing from a character and only the eyeballs and the mouth. That's the image that goes around the internet.
Yeah.
Like, it's a horror game, essentially. maybe instead of fixing the bug, they should have rebranded it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Work with what you've got.
Yeah.
Another thing that has...
But I mean,
yeah, sorry?
Do you think this is a result of kind of the short production cycles that they're working under, or what do you think's bringing these bugs into existence?
I essentially, if I'm quite honest, I think that Ubisoft simply doesn't care. I'm under the impression that Ubisoft has a complete disregard for its consumers. They say, "Fuck all."
Uplay is a fine example.
Yeah, you are sheeps. You buy it anyway. Why should we care? We can patch it afterwards. We see what issues can or will crop up and which will raise the loudest outcry. We will fix those, and we save money on that. And
it's probably the difference between gaming companies being run by game developers and gamers as opposed to now being run by big business. So people that probably have never possibly even played a video game in their life, but they've been to university and done all the sell this, buy that, and when you look at it, the base thing, if you know you can make money for something whilst you're still building it, then you would, wouldn't you?
And
if you had no soul.
Yeah, and the strange thing is, a lot of people noticing the trend, like Total Biscuit went into detail and Jim Sterling, and they actually said, you know what, Ubisoft is worse than EA. EA is
I'm not saying something.
EA is making an effort to, at least ship a product that works, and Ubisoft doesn't do that. And Ubisoft, goes, well, sorry, here, have a patch. That should fix the most issues. And they're saving just the money on playtesting and quality control, I guess. And I don't think it has to do with production cycles, because if you look at it, they released very, very close to Christmas.
Yeah.
And they could have, just pushed it back to actual Christmas release, where they absolutely were going to make a ton of money, because the most important weeks for a game are the first 2 weeks. And so there was some leeway, in my opinion, and they could have, said, well, that doesn't run too well, and gone and fixed the bugs, but they skipped that, and they didn't take that, and it was either because they had to satisfy their investors for the next business report, or they just, said, well, we will fix the bugs when they crop up. So
yeah,
I'm not sure it has something to do with actually the release cycles. I think this is just a business decision on their part. In general, of course, I agree that, with competition and everything, you have to stay up on top of the game and release earlier than your concurrent,
Conqueror. Competitor.
Competitor, thank you.
Otherwise, they will be your conqueror.
Yeah. The problems of not being a native speaker come up to me once again.
You do well, GP. Better than my Austrian.
So, yeah, I guess this is definitely a thing, but I don't think it holds true on Ubisoft's part, but it's just my opinion. I don't have any inside sources.
No, I'd probably agree.
Well, I mean, you're quite right. Ubisoft is getting incredibly bad reputation, and it's going to be harmful in the long run, you'd expect, if they continue to release substandard product. I mean, people will just kind of write off Ubisoft games. So, I don't know whether it is really a wise business decision or a business model that they're implementing at the moment, if they are, in fact, just pushing out games early that aren't ready just so they can get sales off the back of marketing. Yeah. So it'll be interesting.
Another thing that has happened in the last... actually 2 weeks ago was the first cheater was banned from esports, an esport competition. And there was a Counter-Strike Source Global something, the newest
It
Counter-Strike.
was CS:GO Global Offensive, yeah.
And there was a competition, and they found a very, very hidden cheating tool that was almost unnoticeable, because you had to be very close to the person with your cursor, and then it would just snap on.
Mm.
And he was banned, and he forfeited, of course. And there's always been doping in sports, and now we have cheating in esports. So I think this will more something we will see more, as we talked about. So, Teague.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Genuine. We see it in every other sort of sport, like you said, doping, drug doping, things like that. I think it's the nature of competitiveness to try and get an edge in any which way you can. Whether you agree with it or not, I mean, I certainly don't in this case think that it's acceptable to use a computer cheat to be able to win. But I think it's really good that it was spotted, and that the guy was, appropriately disciplined, shall we say. But yeah, I think it's I'm surprised that we've not seen more of it, in all honesty. When I see what people can do with computers that I don't understand at all. I'm surprised that, I've not heard more about it. But yeah, I'm really glad that it's been identified. I think it's that's a really good thing. And naughty boy, don't do it again.
Well, I mean, we may very well have been seeing more of it and never actually known.
Possibly, yeah.
But I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not just competitiveness. There's a lot of money at stake in these competitions these days, and when there's $250,000 on the line, people will go to quite extraordinary lengths to win it. And that's the same for professional sports as well as professional esports. But the interesting thing, I think, is, well, what I found interesting reading into this story is that he wasn't the only one. There's suggestions that it's relatively common, but also there's also money to be made, not just in formal organized competitions, but people play this game competitively, gamble on it.
Yeah.
I mean, how much money potentially has this individual won using a cheat in circumstances where there's no one to check?
Yeah.
And how much does that actually happen? That said, I mean, we're talking about a cheat here, which even without the cheat, he is at an international standard as a player.
Yeah.
We're talking about a cheat that makes you 1% better than you were. But that 1%,
that's what makes the difference. When you're at the top of your game, I mean, we don't say to Lance Armstrong, do we? Oh, it's all right because you were really good at cycling anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think the issue, though, is that when you're talking about that 1% difference in ability, it's incredibly difficult just from observing the game to actually identify
spot it. Yeah,
exactly. And one of the, I mean, in the subreddit I can't remember which subreddit it was. I think it was in the CS:GO subreddit. They had a big discussion about this, and they were trying to prove just from the video footage that he was in fact cheating, and it's effectively impossible. I mean, it is just looking at the video footage. It is just as plausible that he wasn't cheating as he was, and if they didn't actually have the software and the other evidence to support the fact he was cheating, you wouldn't necessarily be able to say. That makes for a big problem, and really the only way that I can see him combating that is to ensure that people play on systems which have been provided for them, not their own systems, and that adds a whole other level of cost to a lot of these competitions, which perhaps the sport at this point in time is not able to sustain. I'm not sure.
Or unless your team has to, I mean, I'm probably misunderstanding something here maybe, but I watch Formula One, and they have cars which have to go through rigorous testing and meet regulations. Is that not a alternative, that your team's allowed to bring your own PCs, but they have got to be to this? Yeah, they've got to be to this standard. They've got to have these standard components in it. Those kind of things.
Again, I mean, you've got the situation that's going to bring in a substantial cost with it as well.
But borne by the team as opposed to borne by the event organisers. And if you're a successful team, I'm presuming there's money on the line, like we say, and you should invest it back in your team.
That's an actually interesting point that I was, going to bring up. First of all, I haven't heard that people are betting on online games. Aside from competition,
people will bet on anything.
That's okay. But when he took part in that, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, we stay on Lance Armstrong, if Lance Armstrong, unbeknownst to me on the street, cycles with an old bike and says, "Hey, you want to race me for $20?" And I say, "Well, you look like I can take you." And then he zooms ahead and takes my $20. So
yeah,
that hustler.
Yeah. And the other thing,
Lance, damn you.
Because in the internet you don't know if that's an esport gamer.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. That is absolutely right. But I mean, you only have to look at any YouTube comments for any competitive Call of Duty player, and it's just constant list of people saying 1v1 me, 1v1 me. If you can't turn that into a money-making enterprise, then you're not even trying.
And the other thing is that with the computers is really, really something difficult. On the one hand, you could have, standard computers that are there and provided by the game. So first to ensure that everyone has the same material and no one has, a better computer or some setting changed. Or, you can check the computers of the participants. But on the other hand, there's always going to be tricky things going on. You could bribe someone in the competition, to install this little USB stick on your PC that you're playing on. So then you would have to randomize where people are sitting, or that's.
I imagine as well. It's probably similar to like your virus software. It can only find what it already knows about.
Yeah.
So if you've got some new cheat installed on your computer, nobody's necessarily going to know that that's a cheat. You might just say, "Oh, it's a letter to my mum I wrote. It's okay."
Yeah. That said, though, I mean, it's not just through software that people are able to cheat. I mean, we've seen most recently at the DreamHack Winter competition, and I think what happened at DreamHack, which I'll explain in a moment, indicates perhaps that at least with regards to CS:GO, the sport itself is not ready to be run professionally. Yeah. But so with the DreamHack competition, LDLC was competing against Fnatic, and they used a boost exploit, which basically means they stack people on top of each other to reach points in the map that you can't otherwise reach, which had been unknown before. And what it meant was that they were able to get a player into a position where they could see the entire map, see everybody moving around on the map, and shoot them, but they themselves were unable to be shot. So they used that exploit to basically win 13 games in a row before it was revealed, and they had to, ultimately the decision was made that they had to replay the final map, the entire final map, again, and they ended up forfeiting anyway. So because of the controversies that surrounded it. But the thing that kind of came out for me from that is that the rules were only made available to the players, not to the public. Yeah. The public were not exposed to the rules for this year's competition. They only had, I think it was 2012 rules that were available, and they were different. Without that transparency, a lot of the decision making by the officials was really brought into question, because no one knew what should or should not have been allowed in that competition. And they couldn't decide whether the rules were being upheld or ignored, and there was a big question mark over it because the team that seemed to be being benefited was Swedish and the competition was held in Sweden, and there's all these sorts of really strange things. But that lack of transparency, I think, is a massive issue and will lead to people exploiting and abusing different elements of the game for their own benefit.
Well, any game is only as good as the rules that are laid down for it. Any game we play is based on rules. So if you haven't laid down rules, then it can't be that enjoyable, because you end up with these situations like you
and with every competition that you have, and you have an official rule book, people will try to interpret and bend the rules, or not even bend, or find a loophole in them, like Red Bull did with their flappable wings on the front. So
yeah.
But that's why you have your set rule book, and you have people that know it inside out who can enforce it. I know that esports is a new thing, but then that's where at the beginning of your competition, you as the organising committee, whoever you are, you sit down, you say, these are the rules. We all understand them. When we explain them to anyone else, this is how we explain them to everyone else.
But if there is a loophole in them, It's something the rules did not foresee.
But any sport has these kind of weird loopholes. But then you have that, well, we're the committee, so we're the deciding factor on this. Nobody else can decide. We're the ones that came up with the rule book. We're the only ones that can decide on it.
That decision making needs to be taken out of the hands, I think, of competition organisers and put into the hands of an independent body that is responsible
stewards
for overseeing this.
Yeah.
We need an e-sport
without
league.
that.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
I think so. I think there really is need for that, given that there's so much money being, offered for these competitions. It really is a matter of governance for esports. If they're going to be taken seriously, people have to have confidence that the rules are going to be applied fairly to all competitions and that everyone knows what those rules are. And if there are loopholes, sure, they have to be dealt with when they arise, and that they will be dealt with in a fair and unbiased manner. People have to have confidence in that. Otherwise, I don't see how it can be taken as a legitimate competition. I would suggest that people will continue to do possibly unfair things, which is to the detriment of the sport.
And you get that in every sport, the sort of belief of corruption within your official body. But it's the only way to overcome it is to, like you say, make wise decisions, clear decisions, unbiased decisions. But everyone will always think that the people are biased against their favourite player or team or whatever.
Of course.
But yeah.
There just has to be no reasonable grounds to expect that.
Yeah, like no way that you can find that email that says,
exactly right.
Good. So we will see if there will be an actual esport league that will publish a rule.
You could start it, GP. You'd be like a multi-millionaire by this time next year.
You got nothing to do.
Busy.
You got nothing to do. Come on. Just solve all the problems in esports for us,
I'll have my people look into it.
And if we could get
are we your people?
Yeah,
because I'm busy.
I have my people look into it.
I'm one of GP's people. Are we getting paid?
Not yet. When we make millions, then we will. We will talk about doubling your money.
Doubling my money.
Doubling my
zero.
Yeah.
Nice.
Easter eggs.
Very good.
Easter eggs.
Yes.
No, it's Christmas presents.
I'm sorry. I had actually the spring topics up, so Easter eggs.
Okay.
In Far Cry 4. No, I'm sorry. No, carry on. You finished?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, if you wait 15 minutes, there's slight spoilers if you haven't, played Far Cry 4 and trying to maybe skip a bit ahead. If you wait 50 minutes at the beginning of Far Cry 4, you get an arguable and not too bad ending to the game without any interaction. And that's an Easter egg because it finishes up the story without any fighting. You just don't have to run away. And that's an awesome Easter egg because really, who's going to do that? Wait 50 minutes in the first scene that you are able to play. So, what are your take on Easter eggs? Easter eggs are around since forever in gaming. FG again.
Well, I mean, I think that Far Cry one is absolutely genius because it gives the player a choice. The choice is you can either run away from the person that you perceive to be the bad guy, or you can do what he kind of asks and wait for him to get back, which both courses of action will lead to a conclusion eventually. And I think that's genius rather than simply saying, wait here for me and then expecting the player to run away automatically. I think that's just a really clever Easter egg in particular. But for me, I've always been terrible at finding Easter eggs. But when I was younger and I used to play certain games to death, I found a few of them, and I've got a few classics that I really liked. So I remember one of the earliest ones that I can remember is in King's Quest II. If you looked inside a hole in a particular rock, it gave you the preview for Space Quest 1. So it would play out the entire preview for Space Quest 1, which was kind of cool. And then in Day of the Tentacle, you could go into a certain room, you could play the entire game of Maniac Mansion on someone's computer, which was pretty cool. I like that one as well. But my all-time favorite Easter egg is, and you can tell I used to play a lot of point-and-click adventure sort of stuff. But in King's Quest IV, once you kind of defeat the final person, Lolot, I think her name is, if you go back to the cell that you started the game in, and you walk into the riddle of the room and you type in rap KQ, you do breakdancing and rapping. Your character starts spinning on her head and doing like backspins and doing the running man and all sorts of stuff. And there's like a rap that plays out. It's really good. So that's probably my favorite Easter egg of all time. But generally, I just am hopeless at finding them, to be completely honest. Yeah.
I really like them, but I'm like FG. Like, I like them, but I hate them. I like them because they're so freaking cool, but I hate them because I can never find them unless I Google them. And then I feel like, well, it's like spoiled it now because it's not a surprise. But yeah, I think they're really cool little fun things for, you know, developers to throw in for us. And one day I will be that person on Reddit who finds one before everyone else, and I'll be internet famous.
Yes.
Finally.
Do you have a favorite Easter egg, Teeggie?
I don't know, because I don't think I ever find them. I don't play that many games either.
Okay.
You haven't found Hero Brian?
Oh, well, yeah, obviously I found him. I Googled it. But no, I'm looking forward to the day when I find my favourite Easter egg, and possibly even my first one.
What about you, GP? You look like the sort of man who spends all these days looking for Easter eggs.
Yeah, of course. I found a few, but not this first one. Just, stumbled up then accidentally. Like Monkey Island was chock full of them. The first Monkey Island, you had a riddle where you walked through a wood, and there was a tree stump where you could look into. And then the game said, "Wow, this is so high definition graphics. I cannot display that." And it prompted you to insert a ridiculous high number disc, because that was the time where you had to switch out discs.
Yeah.
And I played that game. Why didn't I find any Easter eggs?
And the callback came in Monkey Island 3, where you were in a grave and you could look out to a crack, and you came out in this forest and you looked around in this 8-bit forest.
Oh wow, that is amazing, isn't it?
That was
that's
like
so
an
good.
Easter egg that's 13 years apart.
That's pretty cool.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And I was particularly fond of, the references and Easter eggs in Fallout 3 or New Vegas, where you could find Indiana Jones in the fridge.
No, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, if you played on what was the mode called where you find a strange wasteland, I guess. Is it called?
Yeah.
And you not far away from the starting town, there was a fridge with a guy inside with a whip and a hat, and it was hey, that's Indiana Jones.
From the scene, what film? The Crystal Skull film.
The Crystal Skull,
yeah.
Where he hides in the refrigerator. Didn't work out.
In the middle of a nuclear explosion. That's hilarious.
Safest place to be.
That's some of my favorites, because but I generally have the problem that someone else already has found them before me, and I don't get the internet fame and
one day.
I want silly internet points.
Yeah, karma. All the karma.
Give me internet points.
Did you ever? It's not really an Easter egg, but did you ever see the guy playing Legend of Zelda? I think he was playing Ocarina of Time, and he was doing it blindfolded because he'd played it so many times he knew it inside out, and he accidentally found a glitch in the game that took him took him outside of the actual room onto the roof, and he was walking around trying to figure out where he was, and had no idea. He completely lost. And he couldn't take his blindfold off. He spent like 20 minutes just wandering around trying to find his way to the next room. That was good. It was the first time anyone had found the glitch. He did it on a live stream accidentally. Yeah.
Who was that? I might have to go watch that.
I can't remember who it was.
I'll Google it.
Some relatively unknown streamer.
There's also, I guess, some people have said in the old Nintendo games and so forth, there are Easter eggs still hidden that no one has found.
That's my internet point opportunity.
Yeah. play all the old NES games and Pokemon.
And because the beauty of that is very few people have played the old NES games, so you're definitely going to find it. Yeah, for sure. Well, here's one that you might be interested in, GP being a programmer. I was looking on the Game Dev Reddit a couple of weeks ago, and some guy found a file in Carmageddon game, which was released like 17 years ago. He found a file that he was only interested in it because he was rebuilding the engine for Carmageddon himself.
Yeah.
And he had a look at it, and he realized it was a debug file. So he built something to decode it because it was in binary, pulled out what he could pull out from it, and apparently it was a debug file, but the interesting thing is the names that they'd given to all their debug, I don't know what they're called, functions or whatever they are. For example, there was one there called Make Flag Waving Bastard Wave His Flag, which is probably the last thing he will ever do. And there's another one there called Draw Sceney Mappy Info Viewy Thing. Just all these other really ridiculous names for all their debug stuff. It was just in a file that came with the game that no one had ever actually decoded.
That's awesome.
So there you go. That's an Easter egg. That's meta Easter egg. A meta egg.
As a coder, I admit I'm guilty of that. I'm naming function really ridiculously. Like, what they do is clear, but you shouldn't name that. And one time, I actually shipped an update with a debug message into there, which translated, into English said, well, you cannot do that, you dumbass. Problem was it wasn't too hard to trigger. You had to select a new item, and I shipped the fix right after the first one found it, and I realized my issue.
More computer programs should say that, though.
Yeah, but
what are you doing, you idiot?
Once you ship it out to customers, some don't take too kindly to that kind of stuff.
Decent. I'll kind of dragging it back a bit to Easter eggs, going back to King's Quest as well. If you swore in King's Quest 3, it would say, obviously you were raised by a very naughty wizard. If you swore in King's Quest 4, it would make a reference to Leisure Suit Larry, like you should be in Leisure Suit Larry or something like that. But then in Leisure Suit Larry, if you tried to pick up one of the women, it said, I find Daventry women really sexy, and Daventry's like the land in King's Quest, so it's like this kind of cross interaction between the two games again. Yeah.
Well, it was in King's Quest where you could, pick your nose. And it said, no, can do. And you said, look, and if you had a high enough lock picking skill, it would actually lock pick your nose and said, nose unlocked.
It's lovely.
So, that's like,
I love that.
That's some really cool things. I actually, I'm really annoyed now because when we were talking about the first topic, I thought about another topic that was cropped up this week and I forgot it.
I think the same one I'm probably thinking about.
Okay.
That I was going to say, should we have a break? And then I was going to say about it on the break.
Okay. Let's have a break.
See if you wanted to talk about it.
I'll see you in a minute. We are back, and we sent our field reporter FG to Australia to report on a current issue that GTA 5 was banned in Australia for the violence upon women.
Yes. Well, I mean, it wasn't banned in Australia. So this is the interesting thing. Surprisingly, and I'm always surprised by this, GTA 5 managed to make it through or past our censors, which are notorious for banning just about everything they can get their hands on. And it made it through, but due to public outcry, and I would say a very vocal minority, Target, the chain store Target, has pulled it from its shelves and will no longer be selling it at this point in time, which, I don't know, is an interesting response and has generated a lot of controversy within, it seems like, the international gaming community as well as the gaming community here in Australia. So, well, I guess for you guys, do you think that what happens in GTA 5 warrants a company or a chain store refusing to sell it?
I mean, technically, any private business is within their rights to sell whatever they so choose to sell. So, Target removing it from their shelves, I I don't necessarily think it's a problem. You know, people can, as I say, choose to do what they do. I think what's been interesting is the way that it's been discussed on the internet with sort of comparisons to, for example, the Bible. That's what's been, banded around a lot. And I can kind of see that point there. You know, Target is saying we're removing this because it depicts violence against women, things like that. But yet they're happy to sell a book that does depict a lot of the same things, but in a different, time and place. Just because it's the Bible.
Yes.
So I don't mind people not choosing to sell something, but I do get upset when I can see, signs of hypocrisy and things like that. And I quite like that we have the internet nowadays to call people out on these sort of things. But yeah, I feel sorry for Australia,
Australia has really high prices on their games as well, if I remember correctly.
Very much so, yes.
What's the current situation, FG? Are there people rioting already?
Is there looting and killing of prostitutes?
Oh, we don't riot in Australia. We just drink more. That's all we do. The alcohol companies love it when something controversial happens.
What I really hate is the feeling that it's like a knee-jerk reaction. I hate a knee-jerk reaction to anything, to the loud, as you said, vocal minority. And we do actually seem to be seeing this more and more across the board, not just in gaming, in a lot of different social issues, where the people that shout the loudest get what they want, whether it be right or wrong, or actually the majority opinion. And that annoys me as well, just because that kind of stuff does annoy me.
Well, I mean, I think there's two kind of motivations here. On the one hand, we've got like you said, the vocal minority that makes the issue appear misinformed vocal minority, because the petition that people are referring to, which was petitioning Target to no longer sell the game, makes kind of these bizarre sort of allegations about what the game encourages you to do, and says things like you get rewarded points for killing women after having sex with them in the game. Like, just making up gameplay elements that don't exist, which is a problem in and of itself. But you've got this misinformed vocal minority who are able to make the issue seem more significant than it is. That's one issue there. But that said, I don't think it's as simple as a knee-jerk reaction from Target. I think what they've done is they've said, okay, our main consumer demographic is probably middle class or upper working class, middle class, conservative women. And here we have an issue that is directly kind of controversial within that particular demographic. It is bad for our brand to be seen to endorse something like this by selling it. And so they pulled it for that reason. I think that's what the discussions behind closed doors
and have used the petition as a easy go-to excuse sort of thing that we were asked to, so that's why we did it.
Yeah. But it also, and one of the main criticisms that's been made is it's demonstrated how much Target as a company, or whoever does the purchasing and promotions for Target, don't understand the gaming audience, because they were advertising GTA 5 in the toys section of their catalogs, besides Barbie dolls and things like that, like as if they're comparable in any way. And obviously, if you're putting GTA 5 in that context, then and you're selling it in that context, it is inappropriate, absolutely. But that's because they put it in the wrong context, not because the game in itself is worthy of being banned or withdrawn from sale, in my opinion. So,
you wouldn't put the horror films next to Disney's Frozen.
Exactly, just because they're films, they don't fit together. Exactly right. The other issue that's become apparent is Kotaku Australia endorsed the Target's removal of the game from sale, whereas Kotaku International didn't, which is quite interesting. I'm not sure what's happened there, but that is of some concern. I think TB rightly said that you can't really claim to be pro-consumer when you're adopting that sort of stance. And so whilst I think it is objectionable, I do accept Target has the right to stop selling whatever they choose to stop selling. But I think in this case, they've done it because they're misinformed rather than for a good reason.
Do they not have a large market share in Australia as well? So how does this affect your average gamer to try and get hold of a copy of GTA?
They're certainly not your go-to place in
Okay.
any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
On the topic of being misinformed, there was an uproar in GTA 4 of the group Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Yeah.
And that's really funny because the game is actually, punishing you for drunk driving. You can do it, but the police will be on your tail and it's really hard to do and not to crash. So, that's one thing the game absolutely depicts as negative. And you are even prompted to call a cab. So I don't know why they were rallying against it, because you could do it. But,
GTA is the latest in a long line of go-to things to blame, isn't it? Marilyn Manson, it was his fault, probably 15 years ago now, actually. Oh, wow, I'm getting old. It seems that human beings just don't seem to want to accept that some of us are just violent, horrible people. We've got to blame something for it. He wasn't like that. It's because he played a video game. I played GTA and I haven't murdered anyone, and I've never drunk driven.
No, at least nothing could be proved.
I'll never find the bodies. I'm against censorship in general. I don't think that things should be censored. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't personally buy. But that doesn't mean I don't necessarily think they should be made available. And I don't think it was a wise decision by Target. They've ended up with more bad press than they are ever going to get good press from, the people that they're trying to please.
I certainly wouldn't be surprised if they do backflip on it either. I wouldn't be surprised to see it quietly reintroduced to shelves in the next few weeks.
In the right shelf.
Yeah, hopefully in the correct shelf, yeah. But, I think there is, I think there's two kind of issues in here as well. You've got the issue of Target banning the sale, which I think we've covered, but then there's the more general issue about, does GTA 5 encourage violence against women? That's the claim that's being made. Well, before I give my opinion, what do you guys think?
Well, I am a woman, and I know lots of boys who play games, and nearly every single one of them has played GTA. I married one of them, and he's not. he's yet to put any violence upon me, and none of my friends have yet to put any violence upon me or any other woman I know, because they are good human beings who were raised appropriately by their parents and know the values of good social values. That doesn't mean that they can't play a game that doesn't necessarily have all those social values, and understand that it's a game that doesn't have the same social values. And in real life, you should have, appropriate social values. I think it's an easy excuse for people to blame on those people that probably haven't had the same upbringing or the chance to have that similar upbringing. Or I don't know. Some people, I think, are just naturally born this way. There's some wiring wrong in the brain at some point that's not identified.
GP's dancing. You said those magical words.
Yeah.
Born this way, and he started singing.
I'm a huge horror movie fan. I will watch the goriest, most disgusting stuff and enjoy it. But I'm yet to get my saw out and start hacking Rob to bits. It's not going to happen. But I can enjoy watching it and taking part in it. Not taking part in it, but you know what I mean.
We know why. My take on it is GTA is an open world game. It doesn't encourage you to do anything aside the missions. And I have played the game, and I haven't stumbled upon a mission where you are actively, going out and killing hookers.
Encouraged to, yeah.
Yeah. GTA 5 has a lot of things where I say, oh, that's a bit iffy. I don't know that, like the where you have to interrogate someone with various tools.
Yeah.
That's an iffy, but GTA is also satirical. That scene made me cringe, I admit. But but if that scene makes me cringe, it does not make me a bad person. It makes, me a decent person, because I don't condone inflicting that sort of pain upon someone.
But we can all recognize that these are pixels on a screen that you're doing this stuff to. I was playing on our new Minecraft the other day with a fire staff, setting fire to zebras.
Well, Minecraft
I wouldn't do that in real life. I mean, it's horrendous. But in the game, it's funny because the zebra makes a stupid noise and it burns.
Breaking news. A lot of zebras on fire in the UK.
They're a menace.
But it's because we know it's a game. It's not real life.
But games can get really engaging. And in GTA 5, you are really identifying with the character. I mean, not so much with one of them. But, I think I found it, cringeworthy to, but I knew it was a game, but, it was a depiction of violence. But I enjoyed it in the end, not the depiction of violence, but the game, for all it did do and did depict. And I just opened the CD drive with my knee.
Drink soda.
So I now lost my track. FG, back to you. Back to Australia.
I mean, I think games should be dealt with in the same sort of way that you deal with any other creative work. Books, films, and whatever. And there are plenty of instances of books having been banned. That now we look at them and say there's really. These could be classic works. I mean, Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. Amazing book. Incredible book. Banned for nudity and profanity and so on at the time. But, I mean, I remember reading what book was it now? It was Tolstoy, Anna Karenina. And in that, there's these amazing scenes, like incredibly beautifully written scenes that are deeply affecting. He talks in one scene, I think this actually might have been in War and Peace, but talks in one scene about two childhood friends, two young girls who only see each other every couple of months, and they decide to burn themselves in places where no one can see so they can cement their friendship together. Kind of this self-harming sort of collaborative thing, which in a book written now would raise all kinds of uproar because of the context and the issues surrounding self-harm and so on in the world today, and people's just sensitivity to those sorts of issues. Another in Anna Karenina, the main protagonist, the main guy in it, shoots himself through the chest because he's in so much pain at how he's been treated in this relationship, and it's massively, deeply emotionally affecting. But you don't say, "Oh, we should ban Anna Karenina because it's violence."
Might encourage people to
or
shoot themselves.
The fact that the way that Anna Karenina is treated in the book caused her to throw herself under a train at the end. Spoilers. We're not talking about trying to ban it because it's suggestive of this emotional abuse that exists in the book. It's a meaningful thing, and I don't think people should be, wrapped in cotton wool and separated from, things that are challenging and disturbing and confronting. On the grounds that somehow they depict something that you don't like. It's a depiction. It's meant to be considered, reflected upon. Games are meant to be entertaining, but that doesn't stop them from being also something that causes you to reflect upon the situation that you've been dealing with.
What we've also got to remember with GTA 5 is certainly in this country, it's an 18-age game. It's not to be played by young children who are forming their ideals about violence and women. It's to be played by adults who have already formed these opinions.
But we talked about this. Kids aren't supposed to drink. Kids aren't supposed to smoke.
Yeah, but this is where it's
to all of it.
But that's not the game's fault. Surely that's their parents' fault for allowing them to play.
That's the administration's fault. It's everyone else's fault.
Yeah. But the game gets blamed for people's lack of parenting, lack of education to their own children and other children, and I think sorry for the game.
Yeah, but. That's where we stop on a much bigger issue that today.
Oh yeah, that could just go on forever.
Everything is always the fault of someone else. And,
Yeah.
I mean, my stepson, he's played some of these games that he shouldn't play. He's played freaking Call of Duty, but it only takes half an hour to sit down with him and explain to him. Well, like your dad when he was in the army, that's actually the sort of thing he had to do. This is real, but you shouldn't do these real things in life. It doesn't take very long out of your day to educate your children about. I mean, I wouldn't let them play GTA, blimey.
Well, no, exactly right. But GTA is not meant to be played by children, so that makes
exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
And GTA is satirical. It's real satirical. So
Which you can understand if you're an adult playing the game.
Of
yeah.
course.
Exactly.
I think the majority of the people that are generally against these games either haven't played them and they just see the tagline, they see a little bit of gameplay and think, panic. But yeah. I mean, you're right, FG. We see this stuff in films, books all the time, and nobody's hollering.
Yeah, true. Exactly right.
We are drawing to a close, and since we changed the end a bit, do you have anything particular you want to talk about? What you did the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or what you have played, or what you have watched?
I'd like to ask you guys a question.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Ooh.
What's on your Christmas wish list of games?
Of games? Well, now that I've heard that King's Quest is being remade, that is on my list. Or not remade, but then a new version, a new sequel. That's now on my wish list.
Ooh. Well, hopefully you've been a good boy and Santa will bring you something nice on Steam. How about you, GP?
It comes out after Christmas, but maybe GTA 5 for PC. I'm absolutely looking forward to it because they massively enhanced the game and it looks really promising so far. Can't wait to play it again.
I thought you were going to say Half-Life 3.
Yeah, well, that's for Christmas 2054. Coincidental with the Rapture. You have heard it before.
Is that when the Rapture comes?
Yeah, it's when the Rapture.
I'll put that in my diary.
It's bound together. Once Half-Life 3 comes, the Rapture comes, and
Yeah.
Oh man.
What's on your Christmas wish list?
No, I think the new Telltale Game of Thrones probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, big fan of Game of Thrones, so I think that one will be good for me. But anything I get Christmas wish list for Christmas, I won't be able to play because I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be in Cyprus.
Cyprus.
You poor thing.
Oh, I know.
Play video games.
So sad. No video games. I just have to play like silly iPad games. Candy Crush. I could do a let's play of Candy Crush. That'd be fun.
Yeah. At least 100 episodes, please.
Okay.
FG, you have anything to talk about? You want to?
No, I think the only thing I'm excited about is King's Quest. Now that I've heard about it, I heard about it like literally 5 minutes before we started this.
And now it's all you can think about.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as I finish this, I'm going to go type it into Google and see what I can find out about it.
Cool.
I played and I purchased Carmageddon Reincarnation. It's kind of funny because we talked about Carmageddon today already, but I promise you it was absolutely a coincidence. And I had forgotten how much fun Carmageddon was. It's an early access game and there's still a lot to do, but I'm loving the game to bits. It's really awesome. I don't know, I could now go on and talk in half an hour about how awesome it is, and that you get all other Carmageddons if you buy Carmageddon Reincarnation right now on Steam. But it's the best game.
Incidentally,
I feel
another game that was banned in Australia. That one, Carmageddon. Yep, because Australia likes banning games.
And that's okay. I guess
Carly makes it weird. He's not wearing his Christmas outfit.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Where's your Christmas jumper?
If I had any talent in tracking and rotoscoping, I would put a little Christmas on it. Yeah.
2 months from now, the video for PvP would be released with a little hat. Yeah.
Just save it for next Christmas. That's what these big shows do. They just put their Christmas special out over and over again, don't they?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Christmas 2015 will still be talking about GTA 5.
I'm betting that the topics haven't changed much.
No, it would just be just bleep out the 5 for GTA and put 6.
or just tap over the games that we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
No.
I'm all done. All ready and raring for a Christmas hiatus.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Then I thank you so much for watching this first 8 episodes of PvP. I wish my co-hosts Teeggie and FG very, very nice Christmas and good New Year. And of course, I wish you, the viewers, the very best holidays. And we will see you next year.
Yay!
Yeah. Merry Christmas, all.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas. Bye.